Welcome to Learning Photography with Duck. Here's your host, Duck.
All right, welcome once again to, let me get rid of that, to another edition of Learn Photography with Duck. I am, as always, your host, and today is Photoshop, where we cover all the latest and greatest from our world of Photoshop. All right, so I might be a little off today. I'm going to warn you right now. It has been a very busy week for me. I did photos with Santa 2 weekends ago, and I'm still editing images from that session. And on top of that, my client just dropped off, what was it? 47 items that I have to photograph throughout the week.
That's good news.
It is good news. It is. So I spent today going through the box and sorting everything out because, excuse me, everything's going to be shot on white for it's basically catalog work. So it's fairly mindless for the most part. Because once you get into a routine, it goes by relatively quickly. But in order to get there, you need to organize into groups so that way you're not bouncing your lights back and forth. So, you group similar items together so that way, you just, put one down, click, 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 take it off, put the next one down, click, click, click. And all your setup stays the same. And then when the next group comes along that might have a slightly different, modification to the lights, you just set it once, go through that set. So I went through, organized all 47 items, and I think I'm good to go. All right, anyway, before we get going, I just want to mention what's coming up. I don't, oh, my voice is going to go today. I can already tell. They kicked on the heater or the boilers for the building. And those of you who have been to my space in the past, well, if you don't know, my space here in this building is adjacent to the space that houses the boiler that feeds the entire building. And it's not just one building, it's actually it's 7 buildings interconnected. So that one boiler feeds the steam through the steam pipes the entire building, and it goes right through my space. I got these 2 huge steam pipes that run through my space, so it gets very toasty here in the middle of winter.
That's the problem we have with NHTV. The office is right next to the boiler room, and we feel it.
Yeah,
in the office and in the studio.
And I can already feel my throat drying. So I think I'm going to be taking lots of sips today. That's probably the only bad thing. But me personally, I love heat. I'd rather be hot and sweaty than cold and shivering any day of the week. So, because I try to explain to people, for me, cold hurts. Cold hurts. Heat doesn't. I can take heat all day long. Cold, it hurts. It hurts my skin. Anyway, so I don't have anything planned for myself. But I just want to point out that the Connecticut PPA does have a few events. Their events, for the most part, are open to the general public if anybody is interested in attending. Unfortunately, I cannot attend this next coming one on the 15th because I have a prior photo obligation I gotta attend. But it's coming up on Wednesday from 6 to 9. What is it? 6 to 9. And it's all about headshots. So the thing with when you are a photographer, especially when you're a photographer that has a business or has some kind of internet presence, whether it's on social media, website, or even if you plaster your photo on a business card, your headshot needs to be up to date. There's nothing worse than going to a website, seeing, oh, this is the guy I'm going to be doing business with, and then you meet him in real life and like, wow, you're like 50 years older than the picture you got on your website. What the heck, you know?
Hey, that's on Match.com all the time.
Yes, yes, absolutely, you know. So they decided, you know what, let's get together and we'll talk headshots and we'll photograph each other and we'll do it over pizza. And that's what they're going to do. And unfortunately, I have to miss it, damn it, because I have to be somewhere else taking photos at an event. So anyway, so that's coming up this Wednesday. Next month, December 20th, which is also a Wednesday. Well, the next two events, December's and January's, are all going to be on Zoom. Nobody wants to go out in the slush and the ice and the snow for an event during those times. So the December one is going to be a kind of a very loose get together where we share some of our favorite brushes or actions or whatever from that we use in Photoshop. And for those of you who use Lightroom, you can share Lightroom stuff as well. So I'll be on that one. I'll be sharing some of my stuff that you guys, have been privy to. As you know, I tend to customize my workflow as I need it. So I have a bunch of custom actions. I have a bunch of custom brushes that I like to use, and I'll be sharing those. I talked to the organizer, or actually, I didn't talk to them. I left a message with the organizer saying, hey, if you want me to do a little mini session on how to import and export brushes and actions, let me know, and I can do that. That's something that I've done here in the past through, Learn Photography with Duck. So those videos are in the archives if you ever need to refresh it. And hey, Brian, how are you? And for January, I think I mentioned this last time, the board of directors wants to get together and open up the Zoom meeting for our members who want to air any grievances, or B, hopefully make suggestions on how we can make the association a little bit better. But in talking with some of the board members, I said, hey, you should open it up to non-members to kind of be able to sit in on the conversation and get an idea of what CTPPA is about, and possibly ask questions, in regards to any questions they may have regarding CTPPA. So if you guys are interested in that, January, 17th, for about an hour and a half, it'll be a chat about the association. So if you're interested in doing some headshots over pizza, that's on this Wednesday. It is $30 for non-members, and obviously it goes to help pay for the pizza and the soda and the space. It's being held in Milford, at Studio 95 Photographics, which is on Research Drive in Milford. If anybody's ever rented that studio, it's a good sized studio, pretty crammed. He should take a lesson from me in doing a little bit of spring cleaning. So and you get to meet some of the people that are in CTPPA and be able to network and ask questions as well if you're interested. Okay, so that's what's coming up. Our buddy Greg says, hey, when's the next photo walk? And he suggested doing the trains, right, Alan?
Well, Mystic boat parade.
Oh, all right. I didn't know about that one. He mentioned trains. I guess
He just texted to me just a few minutes ago.
Oh, okay. That's why he hasn't gotten it to me yet. But I guess he saw some of the photos you were taking of the trains and it inspired him. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm up for anything. So if you guys even want to host something, let me know and I'll spread the word. Or just post it on Learn Photography with Duck. I think you have access to create events. I'm not pretty sure, but if it's fun, hey, let's do it. Okay. All right. So that's about what's coming up. Let's talk about Photoshop, baby.
Hey, Doc,
Yes.
you've got something on December 5th you forgot to mention. North Haven.
I do. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
In fact, you have to make a graphic on that.
They haven't requested it, but I think you're
Oh,
right.
no. I mean, when you show your graphics on the left-hand side of the screen, that's what I meant.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they won't ask you to make a graphic, I don't think.
I mean, I actually, you know what? I may have sent them something.
Talk to Darlene or Don. Darlene's the publicity director. Darlene Whitmore, Joe's wife.
Okay. All right. Let me pull up what I got. Let's see. In development I'll give you a quick preview here. Got it. Let's see. Did I send them? I think I sent them. No, maybe not. Oh yeah, I think I may have. Yeah, I think I sent them this.
Okay.
So, but
Let me take a picture. Let me take a picture and I'll ask Darlene. Hold on a second.
Yeah, and I think what I'm gonna do is I should probably post it on my Facebook group as well. So thank you for reminding me about that. You are absolutely correct. But anyway, yes. So I will be presenting to the North Haven Camera Club on December 5th from their program. The North Haven Camera Club meets from 7 to 9. Obviously, I'm not going to be taking up the whole time. I think I got maybe about an hour. I don't know. And the subject of discussion is going to be from drag to brag. And basically, I'll be talking about how to see past the not necessarily boring, but the images that don't quite come out the way you initially envisioned it when you were on site. Oftentimes, we go out with great intentions. We want to capture those really, really good photos, and somehow or other we struggle to get it. The light was wrong, the composition was wrong, people were getting in the way, who knows what. And then when you get home, you're just so disappointed in the images that you got that you just want to throw them all out and put your camera in a corner. And what I found, and obviously this came, after many years of experience, that if you just take a break, let it sit for a second, then come back to them at a later time, you're able to approach the images with a slightly different set of eyes. You're not so much jaded by by everything that went wrong, because you've had a little bit of separation of time, from the day you shot it to, taking a couple weeks to take a look at it, and you say, okay, now that I can look at it a little bit more objectively, I can see how I might be able to correct this and fix that and add such and such. Okay. The other part of that is, as your skill level grows with your ability to edit, you're able to really pull out some amazing stuff out of an image that is otherwise kind of bland. So I've done it here in the past. I did the one with the waterfall. I kind of touched on that, with the fall colors at the lake. And so the discussion is going to be pretty much kind of a show and tell to kind of inspire you to go back through your catalog and look at some of those older images that, are hidden gems. And then I will discuss some very basic things that you can do to elevate your image from bland, or from drab to brag. And of course, because you attend these sessions on a regular basis, some of this may already be very familiar for you. I'll be, discussing, manipulating light, manipulating color, manipulating textures, which is the three basic components of any editing. All right. And hopefully it'll just reinforce some of the lessons that you've learned with me over the past, and give you a little bit of inspiration to go through your own library and pull out some of those images that you've taken in the past that you had high hopes for, but somehow they let you down. And hopefully, upon revisiting, you can bring out some of the beauty from those images. So that's coming up on Tuesday, December 5th, starting at 7 o'clock. Okay. All right. And if you want to see, let me see. I'll give you. Oh, wait a minute. I'll give you a preview here. You might remember this one. This one I did not too long ago, where we went to Devil's Hop Yard. The sky was kind of bland. The sun was just starting to set. The light was very flat. And so I took it from this rather drab image and created this, beautiful sunset photograph. Okay. And I did this, and all of this was done in Lightroom. Not a single piece of this was in Photoshop. Here's another one. This is the lake underneath Castle Craig and we went from that to that very bright, sunny, day. I did a sky swap. All right. This was from a photo walk. Kind of bland. I created a little bit more of a moody, foggy evening. Another sunset shot. The subject in the foreground's kind of lost. They just take it and bring it forward and accent or enhance the sunset sky. So these are the kind of things that I'll be discussing and going over, what you can do to bring out the color, bring out the light, and bring out the texture in your images. Okay? So that's that for that. All right, Bill, again, thank you for reminding me, because you're right. I completely spaced out on that one. Okay.
Hey, Chuck,
Yes, ma'am.
this is Janine. I'm sorry I missed the last one. It slipped off my radar.
That's it. 3 demerits.
I have a question. I don't know if this is the appropriate time in your schedule, but I'm looking to purchase a new Mac, and I also want to upgrade my backup system. And of course, I know that you can do backups online, and I'll look into those as well. But I actually like to have an external hard drive, just in case. I like having an external hard drive. Do you have any recommendations? I'm looking at the new Mac 24-inch desktop that they have coming out. Do you, I know you probably talked about this before, but I apologize. I probably missed it.
That's
Can
okay.
you just summarize something that I should look into in terms of backing up? I'm just going to plug it into the back of the Mac and, just back up some of my Lightroom photos.
Yeah,
Thank-
sure. So I'm not a Mac person. I'll be the first one to tell you. I can't stand Apple's business models. I can't stand their products.
Hey, Janine, what town do you live in?
I live in Bridgeport.
Bridgeport. What you might want to do is to go to the Apple store in New Haven. It's by Yale.
Okay.
Or go to the Apple store. It's far from for you at West Farms Mall in Farmington, and ask them.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, there are certain criteria that no matter what kind of system you get into, there are certain criteria that you are going to need. All right. Obviously, the latest MacBooks are going to be, pretty much compatible with the current technology. At least that's one good thing about Apple products, is that they do kind of lead the way in a lot of that stuff. But for a photographer, the key things is having enough RAM, which is it's kind of like, think of it like short-term memory. Okay. It's the memory that's allocated for running whatever it is that you're doing at that current time. So you open up a program, it loads into it. All right. So you want enough RAM to run some of these programs. And as you've probably already discovered, Photoshop, Lightroom, anything with image editing, anything with video editing, they are power hungry for memory. So you want to have as much as you can afford in RAM. Okay. By default, most computers come with 8 gigs. If you can get 16 or 32, that's even better. If you can, give up a lung, you might want to go with 64, but that might be a little overkill. The second part of that equation is the graphics card. You want a beefy graphics card that has the memory capacity, just like RAM. A video card has what's called DRAM, all right, which is, allocated for rendering the graphics on your screen. If you do not have a strong enough memory card, then your whole system kind of slows down, because in order to put everything up on the screen, it now has to allocate the memory from your regular RAM, because your video card's memory can't handle it all. So those are the two most important things you need to consider when buying a new computer. Everything else is kind of secondary. All right. So if you don't have enough memory on a computer, you can always add that. All right. But it's more difficult to swap out a video card, for example. Okay. So that's what I would suggest when you go talk to them about upgrading your computer. All right.
My take on this, and I've bought a lot of computers over the years, is I would do one of two things, like what Doug said about 32 gig of RAM. Either get a machine that has 32 gigs of RAM, or something that can be upgraded to
Yes.
32 gigs of RAM. Right now on my computer, non-Mac, I have 12 gigs of RAM. The software for virus protection takes up a couple of gigs. I'm not happy
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
And I find now that 12 gigs is not enough, and I would not upgrade to 16. I would upgrade to 32.
Mm-hmm.
The problem I'm having, I tried doing a fix on my computer. I don't know if it's going to work. The problem I'm having is every time, and I said this on one of our calls not too long ago, every time Adobe upgrades Lightroom, Camera Raw, Photoshop, whatever, and I try to do one of the new things, it hangs. And plus, and I know Doug sort of discourages third-party plugins, but if you're somebody who's going to use a third-party plugin, now you're really getting into trouble. So as far as eating memory, so I would go with either go with 32 gig, or if you don't have enough money, go with 16 gig if it could be upgraded. But video card, you have to do it when you buy the machine, not an add-on later.
Right. Right. And it's not that I'm against third-party programs. It's just that they don't. It's not for me. It doesn't work in my workflow. But
Thank you.
just to be clear. All right. So that takes care of the computer part. Okay. Like I said, I'm not a Mac person, so I really don't know their line of products to be able to make any kind of recommendations other than those basics. Okay. As far as backup goes, you have a ton of options. A ton of options. Okay. You mentioned, online hosting, backup hosting. That's an alternative. But I don't know. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with that scenario. One, obviously, you're renting the space on their system. And of course, being a corporate system, they have a bunch of redundant backups, of your stuff. So once you put it, into their system, it's their responsibility to protect your stuff. So it kind of puts you a little bit at ease that, we have people smarter than me taking care of my stuff, kind of thing, right? The problem with that is, one, if for any reason you fail to make payments, all right, or the company goes under, guess what happens? all that stuff becomes inaccessible to you. All right. So you have to be careful with what you put, what kind of information you give to a third party to hold for you. All right. It's like saying, hey, Bob, here's $1 million. Could you hold this for me? And Bob says, okay, bye, sayonara, I'm out of here. And then you're left holding the bag. Okay. But if you can get a system that you control, then you're not held, hostage to, you're not held to a potential hostage situation where either you fail to make payment and they don't give you access to your stuff, or worst case scenario, they go belly up and your stuff gets lost. Okay. Once it's on a hard drive that you control, that's it. You don't have to worry about paying for anything because it just kind of sits there. All right. Where the problem arises now is the responsibility of backing up the system is now on you, and to make sure that the redundancies are in place for that information. And on top of that whatever you're using for backup is being kept in a safe place that should anything happen, you're not going to lose anything in one fell swoop. For example, the neighbor downstairs goes to sleep with a cigarette in his mouth and the whole complex goes up in smoke. And you have your computer, and right next to your computer you have your backup system, and it's all gone. Okay. But there are benefits to that because it gives you instant access. All right. Which is the other pinch point or pressure point when it comes to any kind of cloud-based backup system, is that you're going through Wi-Fi, you're going through internet, and that is a slow process. If you have to move a lot of files and these files are rather large, it's going to take up a lot of the time required to back up your system. That's why most backups are done overnight. So you kind of set it and forget it. You start the process, you go to bed, when you wake up in the morning, hopefully if nothing went wrong, it's done the job while you were sleeping. All right. So now you have to worry about, okay, I need to make sure that my current workflow allows for me to work locally with my local files. And then when I'm done there, after that, I can then move them, to an offsite. Okay. Which is, ideal. You want to work locally. But as far as local backups are concerned, there are a ton of options. I just recently installed a network drive system, which allows me to basically connect to my backup system over the internet. And it's great because, at home, it sits right next to my router. It's right there. I can transfer files. Obviously, it's over the internet, but I can transfer files when I'm done on my local computer. I just put it on my backup system, and it's right there. I have access from here in my studio. I can send files from here to my backup system at home over the internet. So I'm not locked to being in a specific location. But these systems are not cheap. Network drives are not cheap, and they're not easy to set up. All right. Now, before I got into a network system, I had a bunch of, let me pull one out. I still have a bunch of these. These are external drives. Okay. These come in very handy for backing up your work. They're handy for backing up your work on site. They're handy to back up your work for short term. These are not designed for long term storage. All right. For longer term storage, I used and I still have it because I still got discs. This is a portable backup system. This is called and I really love this system for a couple reasons. This is called a Tough Tech. Let me see if I can hold it up. Tough Tech Duo. All right, and it's a duo because it's got 2 ports. And this takes notebook size drives. All right, the notebook size drives. Let me pull them out. Okay, and they're hot swappable, means that I can keep this plugged in and just pop out 2 drives and swap them out with 2 other drives. And I can keep all my backups in a secure location. I can drop these into like a fire safe so that they're kind of protected. And these are just 1 terabyte, and you can probably get them bigger now, but they're 1 terabyte drives. Okay. And all they do is they just pop in and out. They pop in and out here. Okay. So I can take out a drive, or actually I would take out both drives, swap them out for another set, and drop it back in, and I'm good to go. All right, it's not going in. Okay, there we go. Okay, and I'm back in business. And the nice thing is that this will, you can read and write to it right from your computer, and it reads as a regular drive. Okay, because it is external, it's a little bit slower, but it's not noticeably slower, so it's nice. The downside to that is that obviously you're going to fill up a 1 terabyte card or 1 terabyte drive very, very quickly. All right, and for 1 terabyte you actually need 2 terabytes, because this is what's called a RAID system. So what it does is it writes information on both drives so that if one drive fails, you can rebuild off the other drive. All right, so this becomes kind of like a redundant system in itself.
A failover system.
Well, yeah, in a way. All right. So it gives you a little bit of peace of mind in that respect. But and these are not expensive. These mini drives are not very expensive, especially the 1 terabyte drives. They're very inexpensive nowadays. So when you fill one up, you just buy a second set of 2, and then you just keep going. All right. The problem with that is now you have to catalog this somehow so that way you remember what's on here. All right, because after a while you collect a few. All right, but it's a fairly inexpensive way of backing up your system. If you don't have a lot of stuff, Obviously, I've kind of outgrown that system a little bit, especially once I started doing video work. Uh, you know, but that's an option. Uh, Depending on your needs, all right, you can get into a system like um, Western Digital has the what are they called? The My Book backup system, and they have 1 terabyte, 4 terabyte, 6, 12.
I have that, and I have it set that it does backup every morning at 11 o'clock.
Yeah.
However, the computer has to be on.
Yes. Yes. Which is okay. You can leave it on. It's not going to hurt it. But obviously, the bigger the drive, the more expensive it's going to be. But again, you have to be careful, because if anything goes wrong with that drive, that's it. You can kiss your stuff goodbye. So it's nice to have a redundant system where that is just one part of your backup. So if you can have your files in multiple locations, then you're good to go. But the Western Digital drives, and Samsung makes some. You can get there's Seagate also makes some, where they're literally you buy it, you bring it home, take it out of the box, put the power cord on, plug it into your USB, and it starts working. It's literally that simple. And you can start transferring files, and they're fairly inexpensive. Bill, how much did you pay for yours? Do you remember? One
I
of those
can't
drives?
remember, but it wasn't much.
Yeah.
It wasn't a lot.
Yeah. So
I have no idea.
yeah. And what I find is that, especially with Western Digital puts their higher level, their top, not quite, well, it depends. Sometimes they'll put their top tier drives into those casings. So you're getting a network drive onto one of those external hard drives. So Western Digital is really good about putting their top line drives into those cases, whereas some other companies will put like the middle of the road drives into those cases. And then of course you can always repurpose old drives if you have old drives. All right. Here's an old drive that I ripped out of one of my old desktops. It's a 3 terabyte drive. Okay. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this drive. So what I did is I bought myself. All right. Let me see if I can bring this one up. I bought myself. Let me unplug it. It's still plugged into power. This little dongle, I guess you can call it. All right. Inatech. All right. Inatech. And all this does is it plugs into your drive, and through USB, you now have access to this drive. It's nothing fancy. There's no case, so you have to be, obviously you got to be careful with these. But plug in your power here, plug in your USB, plug it into your computer, and you now have a very inexpensive backup system. And this is 2 terabyte, the other one's 3 terabyte. They're not very expensive. They're about what, maybe $80, $80, So you get a couple of these, back up your system. Like Bill says, do it, either at night or first thing in the morning, and you're good to go. So there are a lot of options. It depends on what works with your workflow and your budget.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me put this stuff away before I get too messy here. All right. I think Bill, you had a question about Photoshop, right?
Yes, I had two questions regarding lens blur in the new version and using the patch tool.
Okay, using the patch tool and using the lens blur. Okay, we'll do the patch tool first, because I think that's probably the easiest for me, because I really haven't played too much with the patch or the lens blur thing. Okay, let's pick something that we can. Something we can remove. All right. Photoshop. Okay. Oh, what did I do? Did I not load it? Where's Lightroom? Control E. Okay. There it is. All right. Got a little turtle sitting on a rock. Let me share. Share screen. Share. There we go. Hopefully everybody can see that now. Okay. All right. We got a little turtle sitting on a rock. Okay. And let's say, you know what? I don't want the turtle. Got to get rid of the turtle. Okay. Well, when it comes to image cleanup, there are a variety of things. Oh, and I'm getting a little ghosting here. I'm gonna have to fix that later. There are a couple of things. One is what's called blemish removal, and that is the little spots and speckles and maybe even sensor dust that gets picked up on your camera that really do nothing to your image other than add, unwanted noise and unwanted texture, things like that. Okay. Or if you're doing portraits, it would be the temporary blemishes on skin, red marks, pimples, things like that you need to get rid of. And those are relatively easy to remove, okay? Because we have a variety of tools available to us in Photoshop, and they generally fall into the healing brush category, the healing brushes. All right. We got the spot healing, which I tend to use quite often. The latest one is the remove tool, which we'll go over in a little bit. The healing brush and the patch tool. Okay. And which one you use is going to be dependent on what it is that you're trying to remove. All right. So we'll just go down the line. The first one is the spot healing brush. All right, the spot healing brush, which is right here. Spot healing. Okay. And there's two ways you can use this. what some people will say the correct way and the incorrect way. I tend to use this one the incorrect way, but I tend to have a little bit more confidence in myself than, with my editing than maybe some people. All right. So the first thing you want to consider is that anything that you do to your image, you want to be able to back out of it if something goes wrong. All right. So in other words, you want to work non-destructively. And when I use this, I tend to work destructively, meaning I will go ahead and I will make corrections on my image without working on a backup. So for most blemish removal, all right, so we have these little things that are kind of floating in the water. Really doesn't do anything but make the water look a little bit littered.
Excuse me, sir. You have a telephone call.
Excuse
me, sir. You have a telephone call.
She's calling at the wrong time, damn it. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. So what I'll do is like skin blemishes, I'll go in and I'll get rid of these. Now, the reason I tend to do this right on the image I'm working on is because I know these are going to be gone and I'm never going to want them back. Plain and simple. Okay. If I inadvertently, get rid of something that I want back, I tend to do it right away. So it's not like I'm going to be, oh, darn, I needed that pimple back on her nose. I better, what do I do? That's never going to happen, So for that, I'm fairly confident in working directly on my image. All right. But if you're not comfortable, what you'll need to do is you'll need to create a new blank layer, all right, above your image. And then at the very top, you want to make sure that sample all layers is checked. You want that activated, all right? And then what will happen is as you go along and you make these little corrections, what it's going to do is it's going to correct and place whatever it is that you're getting rid of. It's going to place that on the new layer. So you can go at your comfortable pace and, get rid of all kinds of stuff. And then if you say, oh, damn, I need to get rid of something, you have it on a separate layer. See, I'm toggling it on and off. All right. And you can always come back with an eraser tool and bring something back should you need it. All right. So talking about redundancy, this would be a redundant backup. Okay. So if you need to, back your work up to a previous stage, you're able to do it. Okay. So that's basically what I use this for, is those. I tend to use them for small, localized little corrections. It works really great when you have something that is, as you can see, this is kind of on a rather simplistic background. Okay. It can work. It can work on something that's a little bit more complex. So, for example, let's take this. Oops. Let's take this flower. Okay. If I just kind of go over the whole thing, make sure that I paint over everything that I kind of want to remove and then let go. You can see it does a decent job. Okay. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you look at it and go, oh my God, it made it even worse. What I find it is sometimes it tends to have, especially if you have something that has some sharp texture, when you replace it, it tends to replace it with texture that's a little bit softer. So it looks like something might be a little bit blurry. All right. So it has a hard time with that at times. Okay. And if it crosses a lot of different types of textures, okay, it may have trouble differentiating the different segments of that background texture. All right. And then you get something where the texture goes through in a rather unwanted way. Now, you may not be able to see it. Let me toggle it off and on, off and on. But right in this area right here, okay, you can see that it, in this particular case, it did a really, really great job. All right. And in this area here, it did a really great job in filling that in and maintaining the elements of what would be behind it. Okay. Where it fails a little bit is in this area right here. All right. In this particular case, it's not that critical. All right. If you were to look at this image first time, you'll never notice it. It's right up here. All right. You'll never notice it. Okay. In this case, yeah, it's not that big a deal. But what it did is it had a hard time. Here, let me turn that off. Okay. We have dark tone on this side and light tone on this side of this flower. Okay. And the top edge is a little bit kind of, it's there, but it's hard to tell that there's something there. Okay. All right. When it removed it, it didn't know how to handle that transition between the dark and the light, and it made kind of like this hard edge zigzag rather than a soft transition. Now, obviously, for this particular image, that's not an issue. We'll never notice it. But in other situations, it may be something that's a lot more noticeable. So it has a hard time with certain things. You just have to be aware. But the nice thing about it is that you can always go back over it a couple of times until you get kind of the results that you want. All right. So here it is. I'm going over, and now that hard edge is a little bit more obscured. Okay. All right. So you just kind of play with it. All right. I think I beat this tool to death. Okay. All right. The next tool, and this is the one that was just recently added, is the remove tool. All right. And the remove tool also has the sample all layers. So again, if you want to work non-destructively, make sure the sample all layers is activated. But it also has a second one that comes in very handy for some work. And this is the remove after each stroke. All right. Remove after each stroke, meaning that it will remove whatever you're selecting with the brush. It will remove it as soon as you take your brush, you take your finger off the mouse button or your stylus off the tablet. Okay. And so if I want to remove this turtle, for example, what I would do is I would just come in and I would paint. You guys probably can't see. I have my overlay set to red, but it's got a very, very, very low opacity. All right, so I can see underneath it. So you would just paint, all right? And as soon as you're done, finish painting, and you release the mouse button or take your pen off the tablet, it's going to do its work, analyze what it's trying to remove, and make the removal. All right. And as you can see, it did a really, really great job of removing the subject. All right. Here it is. All right. Look at that. It continued the top of that rock. It continued the water behind it and even the texture of the rock. All right. And the beauty about this particular tool, obviously it uses the artificial intelligence, but it handles keeping the texture detail appropriate to what it is, to the area that you're working on. So like the previous tool will sometimes give you a noticeable softening. This does a better job at keeping the texture. All right. Where I find it has a hard time again is in the areas where there's perhaps light on one side and a little bit darker on the other side of what you're trying to remove, and filling in that a soft transition from one exposure level to the other. Okay. But again, you can always go back and fix it. Okay. You can use it like a spot removal. All right. But what I find is that while on one level it is a lot better than the spot removal tool, for small little spots, it's a little bit more resource intensive, okay? Because it's using the Adobe AI. This particular tool is more intensive in memory. So if you have a lot of spots and you're just going along and you're clicking here, clicking there, trying to get rid of, see now already I'm already starting to slow down. Now I have to wait for the computer to catch up. All right. Whereas with the spot healing tool, it will keep going at my speed. It will not slow down in the same way. All right. So if you're doing like, especially with skin retouching and there's a lot of, little blemishes on the skin, it will keep up with you on every single step. Okay. So for that, I prefer this tool over the remove tool. Okay. But for something a little bit more complex, the remove tool is awesome. Okay. Now, the other thing that they did is, and I haven't tried it because I really don't use this tool too much, is instead of painting the whole thing, they said you could just basically draw an outline. All right. Yeah, there it is. And it will recognize that you want to select that whole thing, and it's going to remove it. Okay. So just like that, that rock is gone. And you can see right here where the rock goes into the water. Look how natural that looks. It's amazing. It's amazing, what this tool can do. So I tend to reserve this for removing things that are a little bit more complex. If you do, for example, architectural photography and you need to get rid of that dumpster that's in the corner against the bushes, you just, paint over the dumpster. It analyzes what's around it, and it does a really, really great job of filling it in and making it look like it's never there. Okay. All right. Those are probably the two more common, easiest tools to work with. All right. The next one is the healing brush tool. The healing brush tool. Okay. And this one is tricky because, as you can see, if you just click on the image, it's going to say, hey, you know, you're trying to use this tool the wrong way. Okay. This one, you control what the computer uses as a cover up. All right. So for example, I have these little spots here. All right. Obviously, I would not use this tool, but to give you an example, you need to use it in conjunction with the Alt key or the Option key for your Mac people. The Alt key. So you're going to have one hand on the Alt, the other hand on your mouse. All right. And you're going to press and hold the Alt key. And the cursor is going to turn into that target reticle. I don't know if you can see it very well on my screen. Maybe. Okay. It turns into that target reticle. And what you got to do is you got to click on the target area that you want to use to sample as your cover up for what you want to cover up. All right. So in this case, I want to get rid of these spots. I'm going to use the water adjacent to it. So I'm going to press and hold the Alt key, click once. All right. And then now I can go ahead and paint. All right. And as I paint, you're going to see the little plus sign off to the side. That indicates the area that it's using to sample. Okay. So as I come, all right, it's using that area to sample. Okay. Now, if you notice, that plus symbol is not moving. Okay. Like the other tools, there are things that you need to check up at the top. Okay. And of course, current and below, because I'm working on a blank layer. All right. But more importantly, you have the aligned. Okay. The aligned in this case is unchecked. It remained unchecked because the last time I used it, I did not have it checked. Okay. Normally, you'll want to click the aligned. Okay. And what that will do is, as I make a selection off to the side, release my Alt key, and then move over, notice now how that plus symbol travels in relation to my brush. Right. And as I go, it's going to sample from off to the side, but as my brush moves along, it's going to move along with me. All right. So in this case, notice it's still in that off to my right. Okay. All right. The only thing is you have to be careful, because if for some reason I sample here. All right. Let's say where's my draw? I sample here and I want to cover up something here. All right. So this distance is going to remain relative. All right. So this is my sample. All right. This is what it's going to select from, and it's going to apply that to here. All right. So this is my point. Okay. Whatever that relationship is from this point to this point, it's going to maintain that. So now I'm working along, and now I see something here. All right. Oh, wait a minute. Working along, right? I see something here. Now I want to, and I say, oh, shoot. Now it's picking up from the rock because the relative position when I was up here traveled to here. And now what it's doing is it's selecting from the rock area. So you have to be careful. In that case, you need to just hit the Alt key, reposition to a new location, and then continue working. All right. So this gives you a little bit finer control when you want to make sure that you maintain a certain amount of you don't want to create any kind of repeating pattern. So if you want to create a little bit of chaos in your pattern, you'll be pulling from different parts. Okay. Where it gets tricky is, and I don't have anything here, is when there's something with a gradient, because what happens is if you select something from a part of the gradient that's a little bit darker and you start applying to an area that's lighter, you're going to see the difference. So it has its limitations. As long as what you're selecting from matches what you're covering up, you're good to go. Okay. All right. So in this one, what I tend to do is I tend to really work in conjunction with the Alt button in order to really, work on getting rid of whatever it is I want to get rid of. Okay.
This is the tool I get confused on a lot. So if I want to, let's say I want to get rid of something.
Yep.
And have something in its place, I put the cursor over what I want to get rid of, use the Alt key, and after I do Alt and click, then go someplace else and sample from there and move it over.
Yeah. So let's say I want to get rid of this little bit of a plant that's sticking up. Okay. Oh, guess what I forgot to do? I just noticed it. Whoa, look at this guy. He's sitting on a rock. Always make sure you remove the subject from the reflections. Okay. All right. But let's say I want to get rid of that little piece of plant there. Okay. Using this tool. Okay. What I need to do is I need to sample. All right. I have this little bit here. All right. From here, I have rock as my background. Okay, so I have rock here. All right, but here I have water as my background, right? Okay, so I have to be careful where I select. Okay, so if I want to get rid of the upper part of this plant, I have to sample from the rock area around it. And when I want to get rid of the lower part, I got to make sure that I sample from the water. Make sense? Easy enough to understand, right? So I'm going to, make sure that your brush size is, appropriate to what you want to get rid of. This is not something that you can click once and it's gone. You need to do a little bit of work, all right? But this tool is good for those really stubborn things that the AI can't do or the spot removal can't do, and you need to, finesse it. Okay. So press and hold the Alt key. I'm going to put my target right over this little bit of water line. I'm going to use that water line kind of as a guide for me. Okay. And I'm going to bring it over and I'm going to start working down. Okay. All right. And I'm going to make sure that I make my water line kind of continue across. All right. Now, the area above it is darker than the rock next to it, right? So if I use the rock next to it to kind of cover this stuff up, all right, it's not really going to match the reflection. So I'm going to need to use some of that dark above it to kind of say, hey, you know, we need to use that darkness, all right, to kind of fill it in. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and actually it's not doing it. There we go. Here we go. Okay. And then now I got to worry about that part that overlaps the water. All right. So I have my water line. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to go ahead and transfer that over as best as I can. Okay. All right. Now the thing is, there are some limitations. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and use the water to kind of blend that in. Oops, there we go. Oops, you got to be careful. I'm not paying attention. There we go. Okay. And then maybe get rid of this thing. Okay. And then just like that, you know, if you notice, as I get close to the edge of that turtle reflection, it's starting to want to blend in with that turtle reflection, so you have to be careful, right? I happen to have a hard edge on that. I mean, a soft edge, so I might want to switch over to a hard edge. Okay, and make sure that I really just move into it. Okay. All right. And just like that, you can make it gone. Okay. Obviously, there are better tools, but that's basically how you use that brush. All right. It's in conjunction with the Alt key and, you know, Alt, press Alt, sample, go in, sample, go in, and work on removing your stuff. Okay. The last one is the patch tool. Okay. Now, take the concept that we just learned about taking an area and using that area to cover up another area. That's what the patch tool does. Okay. So again, we want to go to the top, make sure that sample all layers is selected. Okay. So it wasn't, now I am. Okay. And I also tend to keep it on content aware because content aware tends to do a better job at blending. All right. Oops. Cancel. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, it's just a lasso tool. I'm going to select what I want to remove. All right. That's what I want to remove. And now I just drag this to an area. Okay. And if you notice, this kind of behaves very similar to a tool you're already familiar with in Lightroom. Okay. That's how the spot removal tool works in Lightroom. You make a little marquee and you can move that marquee around and select an area. And you can see it didn't do the best of jobs. Okay. So I can come over again and try again. All right. Get rid of the marquee and you can see that it left a bunch of stuff behind. Okay. So this is, again, another tool that it's not a one click, it's done. This one you need to work on. You need to work at, all right, in order to remove. Okay. Once you get the bulk of it, then you can go ahead and if you want, make another selection, move that over. All right. Maybe make another selection, move that over. Okay. It's probably not going to do a good job because it's going, it's adjacent to, it's basically the point of demarcation between two textures. Okay. So in this case, you can see we have a very rough, dark texture here and a very smooth, lighter texture here. Okay, so it has a hard time figuring out what you're trying to do along that edge. Okay, it left a lingering, residue there along that edge that I might want to try to remove. Okay, but it's going to have a hard time. All right, so you'll need to go ahead and use other tools to help it. Okay, see, that's even making it worse. So that's not the best tool. Okay. All right. All right. Any questions about those 4 tools? Okay. In line with those tools, we also have this one, which is the stamp tool. Okay. The stamp replace tool. Okay. Normally it would be part of this, but I separated it because I tend to use this tool a bit. All right. This also works very similar, where you have to give it a target by using the Alt Option key. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my brush size a little bit smaller here. Okay. And I'm going to sample from the water. So I sample first, and then I go over here, and you can see, well, here, hold on a second. Let me make this bigger. All right. I'm going to sample here. All right. And all right, why isn't it Alt sample? Okay. Why are you behaving differently now? Damn it. I didn't do anything different. Are me aligned? Oh, there we go. Current and below. Duh, that's why. All right, click. All right. Notice that as I move, the area that I selected is visible in my brush. All right. This makes it easy to align with whatever you're trying to cover up. All right. So
how is that different from the healing brush tool that you used?
This one is literally a copy of.
Okay.
All right. So if I go here and stamp, it's going to notice it does a duplicate. There's absolutely no attempt at making it blend into the underlying layer.
Okay.
It's just saying, I'm going to take this and I'm going to stamp it right here. Okay. But the nice thing about that is in situations that is a little tricky, and again, this works best with smooth, even textures. All right. Now this edge that I want to clean up, I can just click out here on the water and I could come in and I can now clean up that edge. All right. And like the other tool, the point that's sampled is going to be in relation to my position with the brush. Okay. Now it is creating a stamp of that area and applying it to where the brush is. But in this case, it doesn't matter because It's very evenly toned. You'll never notice the difference. Okay, so it's great for a certain amount of texture. For anything that the texture is even. Okay, if there's anything that, for example, if I sample here and I bring it here, all right, notice that it is duplicating the whatever it's sampling from. Okay, so I can create multiple versions of that. All right, and what happens is you now run the risk of generating a very noticeable pattern. All right, so you have to be very careful with this particular tool. You need to be aware of what you're sampling and where you're going to. All right, along the water, it was great because it did not try to blend in along that edge, which the other tools were trying to do. It just says, okay, I'm just going to take this water and I'm going to put it here. Okay, so it works great for cleaning up that edge. But if I am sampling anything that has any kind of texture, it's going to transfer that texture over, and you run the risk of creating a repeating texture. So you have to be careful. Okay, but the nice thing is, if you're working on a separate layer and that happens, you can always undo it with the erase tool. All right, and just come back and make another attempt. Okay, so that's the stamp clone tool, the clone stamp tool. Okay, and that pretty much covers all the tools that you would need for cleaning up. Before and after, before and after. Okay. Did that answer your questions?
Thank you, yes.
All right. Did it create any more questions? Any additional questions for anybody else?
No, I've been using that tool for about 2 months and with some success.
Mm-hmm.
But
Which tool?
Today helped. Today helped.
Which tool, Alan?
The removal tool.
Oh, the removal,
the
yeah.
lasso, the whole object, like we've taken the turtle away off the.
Oh,
rock.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, I didn't quite understand how that could actually happen. It was like magic.
That's AI. That's the power of AI. All right. While it looked like magic on my screen with this particular image, you will notice that there will be varying degrees of success. It really is dependent on what it is you're trying to remove. All right. Obviously, you can't remove huge stuff. All right. It's not meant for that. Okay. So for example, let me zoom into this pole right here. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and select my spot removal. And I'm just going to just go down the line. Okay. And as soon as I let go, all right, see how slow this is? It takes time to think. All right. But now, let me see if I can zoom in. Okay. Well, actually, hold on. Let me zoom out first. Okay. You can't see it. You can't see where that pole was. Okay. The pole was right there. It's gone. All right. So on quick inspection, you say, yes, it did an awesome job. Yay. But because I am a bit of a stickler about my photo editing, that spot now really jumps out at me. Because if we zoom in, you're going to start noticing a problem. Okay. And that is a bit of a repeating pattern. All right. You can see it here, 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 all right? And to a certain extent, this part, this part, this part, which, you know, is actually this, but it kind of hides there, all right? And we have row of the light and shadow on the tree, all right? It kind of duplicated it, and now we have a repeating pattern there, and we see this repeating pattern there. Can you see it now that I pointed it out? It's when you see it, you can't unsee it. Okay? So, oh, here's another one. This pattern right here is the same as this pattern right there, which is very close to that pattern right there. All right. So it does a, oops. Yeah, and I forgot to do it on a new layer. So let me go back. Oh, there, I was, yes. Okay, so let me go new layer. Okay. Slow, there we go. Okay. So we got all this repeating pattern, repeating. It gave me a different repeating pattern now. Look at this. We got that, we got that, we got that. All right. So you have to weigh it against the use of your image. If this was just going up on Facebook at a small size, I could care less. Nobody will be able to point that out. Okay. If I'm making a print, you know, one I'd want to get rid of that as well. Right. If I want to make a print, I might want to go back in with a slightly different tool and clean it up a little bit. So maybe the spot heal and get rid of some of these repeating patterns. All right. But even that, it's making it a little bit softer. All right. See, I don't know if you can see it on yours, but this whole area has just now gotten way softer. The texture, see how the texture is not as crispy as this? I know it's a little bit out of focus because it's a distant tree, you know, but if you look at it, it lost that crispiness to the texture of the leaves, you know, especially the highlights. They become a little bit more dull. Okay. So there are limitations to that tool, you know. I might go in with the clone stamp, okay? And I might want to say, you know what, I'm going to pull texture from maybe over here and, you know, just add a little bit of variety from other areas, okay? And I'm just doing kind of like click, bring it over, click, bring it over, click, bring it over, click, and then just layer it up, okay? And now when I zoom out, it doesn't jump out at me as blaringly, okay? So knowing when to use what really, really helps. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So that said, you know, the AI tool has its benefits, but as you saw, it has some drawbacks. Okay. You just have to be aware of what the limitations are. Okay. And what it is that you're trying to accomplish. You know? Okay. Now, even the clone stamp tool, all right, let me go in. With the clone stamp tool, all right, we have the circle, right? Just it's a brush, and like all the brushes, you have the size and you have the softness or the edge transition. Okay. Now the size, I tend to use the shortcut. If I press and hold the Alt key, and then I press on your mouse, it would be the right button, I think, right? See, I use this so often I forget what the mouse does, but I think it's the right mouse key, okay? It brings this up, all right? If I move my mouse left, or right, left makes it smaller, right makes it bigger. If I go up and down, it makes it softer, a softer edge transition. Down makes it a harder edge transition. Okay. All right. So up, down, left, right, with the Alt key pressed the whole time. Okay. All right. So if I were to have a really hard edge for my clone stamp tool, all right, and I use it to cover something else up, you're going to see that edge, all right? You can see that edge, or it's more noticeable up here, okay? So you want to make the transition from the new patch to the underlying layer a little bit better. So you want that edge transition, all right? But what I find is if you go to like a 0, okay, so I'm going to click here and I'll bring it over here. Even with the preview, you can see that only the very, very, very center is going to give you the best patch. From there on, it becomes more and more transparent. So what happens is the underlying texture intermixes, and there will be times where you get this kind of double exposure look to your transition. So when it's applied, suddenly it looks like it's out of focus, because what you're doing is you're taking a percentage of the new and a percentage of the old and laying them one on top of the other. Okay, so you have to be careful. Okay, so I tend to use it in small little areas with not too soft but also not too hard of a transition, because now if I click and then drag it over, okay, now it looks a lot better. Okay, a lot more natural. Okay, hopefully that made sense. I know I have a tendency to rattle on at times. All right, did I leave anybody behind on that one?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay. And then of course you can always go to the lasso tool, all right, and use the content aware fill. All right. Where is it? Edit content aware fill. All right. And you want to make sure that sampling area is wait a minute. Current, where's my current and below? Sampling area. Sample all layers. Here it is. Okay. Oop, there we go. And then you're going to say, I'm going to sample from here, maybe sample from here, and maybe sample from here, and sample from here. All right. In order to blend it in really, really nice. Okay. And this uses a little bit of AI and a little bit of, visual magic to patch it. Okay. All right, and then hit apply. All right. But what I find with that is sometimes right around the edge, it'll be really, really soft, and you can really see where it was you made your selection. So you have to be careful when you do that kind of fill. Okay. All right. And I think I covered every part of the selection and replace. So, okay. All right. And here I am automatically looking up to check the time, and I have no clock over there. It's 8:15. Okay. We're good. I knew that was going to get me. I knew it. All right. Any other questions about Photoshop? That was it?
That was good. That was good. We had a good one.
Cool. All
Learned
right.
something.
All right. I've been nose deep in Photoshop pretty much 24/7 the past week. I'm starting to get a little cross-eyed, but here, I'll show you some of the images. Where is event photos? We did a photos with Santa event. It was a fundraiser for the Society of Santas, and we did. Let's see. Look at this. There we go. Look at that. Everybody see that okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
So we did a bunch of photos, and I just add some magic. Santa's magic. Look at that. I love that one. The expression on her face. Perfect. And of course, we took some regular shots as well. So this particular shot was completely edited in Lightroom. I gave a little bit of light effect to this part here. Okay. But everything that has the Santa magic, that was done in Photoshop with custom brushes that I created specifically for these images. Come on. Oh, it won't zoom in. Okay. All right.
Doc, is that you in the photograph?
No, I was the photographer.
Oh, okay.
No, that's a very good friend of mine, my mentor in the Santa Society. So that's what I've been doing all week long. All week long. But we raised over $2,700.
That's fantastic.
So and it's all going to Connecticut Food Bank. So I'm very pleased. Here's another one. Look at that. And that's Marty the elf. I had a special light set up inside that chest so that when they opened it up, the light came up from underneath. It was an awesome weekend. So So anyway, that's what I've been up to, and that's why my mind is mush right now, and my eyes are crossed, and making all kinds of mistakes today. So hopefully you'll forgive me. All right.
There's nothing to forgive. You did a great job.
I appreciate it. All right. Any last minute questions before we close the session?
Are you still, I'm sorry,
Yeah, go
are
ahead.
you still working on that training thing that you talked about?
Yes, I am. Unfortunately, work takes priority.
Naturally.
So as soon as I get that module set, I will let everybody know. But yes, it's still being planned, and hopefully I'll get to it sooner than later. I want to get it to it sooner than later, but it is in the works. So okay. And I think part of the difficulty is I have so many modules already sketched out that I don't know which one to pick to do first, or to do as an introduction for you guys. I don't want to make it overly challenging, but I also don't want to make it so simplistic that you guys go, ugh, So, but stand by. It is coming. Okay. All right, guys. Well, I won't keep you any longer, unless somebody has a question. Thank you very much once again for joining me. It was a pleasure. Next week, again, if anybody's interested in attending that head shop thing with CTPPA, you need to go to ctppa.com and register there. Okay. Otherwise, we'll see you next Monday.
Thanks, Doug.
All right, guys. Be safe in the
Thank you.
meantime.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you for watching Learning Photography with Duck. Brought to you in association with Milford Photo, your local full-service camera store. Located in downtown Milford, Connecticut, Milford Photo offers you a personalized shopping experience. From the latest camera gear to printing and framing services. And, of course, educational workshops to teach you the finer aspects of photography. Don't forget to tell them Duck sent you.